It's April 22nd, 2015, and an invisible sniper is still the worst idea ever. I'm Colin Detmar.
And I'm Johnny Niska, and this is Crow, a Dota 2 podcast.
Oh, episode 3. We're getting there. Even though we agreed we weren't going to say the episode number. I'm good at this.
Yeah, let's keep rolling. That's like the quality level we shoot for at Crow.
You know, we go for a kind of off-the-cuff style where we don't edit our podcasts and don't make them good.
Exactly.
Ugh.
Exactly.
Well, it has been a couple of weeks since we last recorded, and, yeah.
Our topics are still basically the same.
Yeah, there hasn't been a lot of patching going on in the Dota world, which, you know...
Makes sense.
They're right. Yeah, it's just, you know... I believe the official word from Ice Frog himself is that the patch will not happen before Star Ladder, which is going to conclude on the 26th of April.
Yeah.
And obviously we shouldn't expect a patch on the 27th because it's Dota and that's psychotic, but after that it becomes possible. So.
I think it's gonna be pretty soon after. It sounds like they know what they're doing and they're just holding it back for the tournament.
I think you're right. But I've been in the community of too many Valve games to to make that kind of like, oh, okay, so that's the date. Like,
I'm not sure saying on the date, but I don't expect we'll be waiting much longer.
Fair. So, yeah, I had a ridiculously good experience the other day with Johnny, my first time playing Captain's Mode.
Indeed, that was an amazing match. That was so
great. Like, our teammates were friendly and communicative and good, and the match was tense, and it was a comeback, but it wasn't like... I guess it's possible that this comeback wouldn't have happened before the comeback gold thing, but I think it still would have. It was just that we got our shit together and played smarter.
It's always hard to say if this could have happened in another patch, but I don't think it was like, oh, you will just won because of some bullshit comeback gold thing. No, we had a harder carry than them, and we kept ourselves alive long enough that we could win fight and take it back.
Yeah, like, we were losing the early game because their team was more early game focused, but we weren't losing, like, we were definitely losing, but we weren't losing hard. Like, we were not feeding incessantly or anything.
There was a moment where we had basically no vision, and the only reason we could take it back was because we smoked out, and went out, warded up, and got some free kills.
Mm-hmm.
If we hadn't started smoking like at key points there, we would have lost. And they never used smoke, or they used it once, I think.
Did they? No, I think they were just using Luna's ult Mirana's ult. They were using Moonlight Shadow as their ghetto smoke, which is, you know, a good idea.
It's also good, but it's
when you like. The few times where I've been in games where both we had a Mirana and we had people willing to use smoke, it's like, no, it's not, oh, we have Mirana ult, so we don't need smoke. It's like, oh, so we can do it twice as much.
Yeah, it's just great. We can get in and get out.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, smoke is probably one of the, like, most underutilized items on public.
Yeah, and you of all people have done the best job of convincing me of that. Because I feel like every game where we've been on the back foot and we've gotten our team to cooperate with us for smoke ganks, we either turned it around or turned it into way closer than it had any business being.
Yeah.
So, it's just...
It's a great item, and, like, the cooldown on it is a bit harsh. Like, I think it's a 5-minute restock or something.
Mm-hmm.
Or more than that, I'm not sure, but it's great.
And and we're not saying that the cooldown is unfair or unreasonable. Like, if you could smoke gank on non-stop, obviously that would be a problem. It's good that the cooldown is what it is.
It's probably more than 5 minutes, considering we had like 3 of them 30 minutes into the game or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't actually know, but we had just enough. We had just enough of them. Jesus, that was close. But, I said this as much. That is not indicative of how every Captain's Mode game is.
I'm sure. But just, like, I feel like sort of a result of Captain's Mode, like, has to be that people are more willing to cooperate, right? I mean, just having that drafting process where you're like, okay, what do you want to play?
Yeah, I mean, it's... You don't go into Captain's Mode expecting to just, like, insta-pick Star Spirit.
Yeah.
And of course, sometimes you do get the asshole who just insta-picks Captain and then doesn't give a shit. That happens. And that sucks so much. But it happens way less than when you get the people who don't care in all pick.
Yeah, I did that was one thing I noticed is I kind of expected an insta-pick Captain. And there was a little bit of delay where it seemed like everybody was seeing if someone else was really confident and would step up. And then someone else did.
Yeah.
Which seemed like a good sign.
When it's insta-pick, you usually know it's a really bad sign. When it's, like, really fast pick. Mm-hmm. And I've certainly had Captain's Mode games where people get insulting and stuff, but as I said before, like, it's a difference between having people insult you every game and having people throw insults a fifth of the time.
Yeah. Though, that match also really drove home that I want Winter Wyvern added to Captain's Mode, because I don't feel like she's crazy good. She's obviously good. I don't feel like she's broken. And I really like her, and you're good with her.
Am I, though? Am I? I think I'm okay with her.
I mean, I'm not saying you're nuts with her, but I think your Wyvern is pretty good, and you haven't had enough time to play with her, you know?
I really haven't. I have not faced a lot of, like, stupid all-melee teams to abuse her against.
And I know, like... Obviously, she's better against those lineups, but I don't think you just need to use her in those instances.
No, but it's a lot like... It's hard to pick her against Sniper.
Sure. Very well. That's a excellent way of putting it. In the current meta, against that guy. That guy.
Yeah. We should make him invisible.
Yeah. Definitely. That's the solution.
God.
So the game went to, like, I want to say 80 minutes. Does that sound right?
I think it was close to 70, but somewhere along that line.
Okay. It went fairly late, but obviously it didn't go crazy late. I have never had a match that went to the insane late game, right? Like the 120-minute mark.
I have.
Have you in Dota 1 or Dota 2?
Dota 2.
Have you gotten some of the weird, like, bugs and stuff that start happening?
Not anything that's super obvious.
Okay, like I don't know if you know about them, but like there is a bug that will sometimes happen where people's character models will just burst into flames and will just burn for the rest of the match. It's terrifying.
That sounds like a feature.
I wish it was, but like, you know, and there's stuff that isn't like visual glitches, that's just weirdness, right? Like there's the nature of the fact that everyone gets 6 slotted, perhaps 7 and 8 slotted with their courier. There's the fact that, like, Roshan starts hitting, like, a fucking truck. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, he doesn't stop scaling, is the thing. He just doesn't stop.
Yeah, and there's just so much, like, I feel like once you get to that point, it's even easier for the game to stalemate. Like, I want to say, once it gets to 100 minutes, it gets harder and harder and harder to end the game.
Like, especially if the team that's on the back foot has a hero that can't withstand anything. Like, the instances, almost every game I've had that has gone to crazy long lengths, the defending team has had a Medusa.
Yeah.
And Medusa just, like, at a certain point, Medusa just goes, "Oh, you have Megas. Well, I don't care."
Yeah. I feel like what needs to happen, like, we talk about how Dota should take lessons from sports, and I just think it should. I think Dota is enough like a sport and has enough, especially in like the spectating and the community, right? Like you can argue mechanical differences, but the way it works, the way it functions is very much a sport.
Well, it's also a sport in the way you play it. I mean, like, of course, it doesn't, the rules are not the same as in football, but it's, obviously, but it's like, you still go there as part of a team, and team play in order to win over a long period. Like, it's, you put in a lot of fucking effort for a match of that.
Yeah. And I feel like they should really, like, most sports have a solution for when games go crazy long, and Dota needs a solution.
Dota needs a solution. I don't know what the solution would be.
I mean, I feel like there are a lot of pretty simple ones. I mean, like, you could just make all respawn timers insanely long so that anyone who gets a kill, it's just like, oh, okay. Or you could eliminate them altogether after a certain point. It's like, no, if you get a kill, that person is out of the game. And
Are you aware of how respawn timers work currently?
Vaguely, I don't know the specifics. I understand some basic principles.
I wish I knew them better.
I mean, the other things you could do, like, you could turn it into, I mean, I don't know this is a great solution, but you could just make it like, okay, after this point, you have 10 minutes, and the first person to 5 kills, or the team with most kills after this, when the time expires, wins. Or you could do, like, if you want to do something with the burst into flames thing, that is like, okay, like, meteors start raining from the sky, and everyone is constantly taking damage. And if you don't hurry up, then somebody's base is going to give in from the damage.
So I just looked up the respawn time, and it's actually as simple as 4 times your hero level.
I don't believe that at all.
And the only difference is if you buy back, it changes the next death.
Really?
And also...
Oh, and Necrophosis Scythe, of course.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, I guess... Huh. I feel like there should be... I feel like there is more going on than that.
There's... they've changed it a bit. It's 5 plus 3.8 times your hero level.
But, like, I'm certain that I've had times where I died at a decent... Like, not a crazy level, but at, like, level 12 or level 13. But I was doing, like, shit, so I respawned really fast. Like, I know that has happened.
Did you have Bloodstone?
No. God, I said I was doing shit, didn't I?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe just my memory is playing tricks on me, but I feel like that must be out of date or something.
Every resource I'm finding, like the Dota 2 Gamepedia says this. Reddit says that it's hero level.
Huh.
Stack Exchange says it's hero level. I don't know why I found something on Stack Exchange for this, but yeah.
Well, whatever. I guess, I don't know. But certainly I think, yeah, in the extreme late game, something to make death more, well, I guess that the fear is if you make it something like if you die you don't come back, then everyone just hides in their bases because they don't want to die.
But that won't happen either. Like,
I don't think it would always happen, but I'm sure there are times it would happen. Like, I mean, certainly, like, supports aren't going to want to leave the base. Like, Vision would get terrible because people aren't going to want to go out to ward. Are you out of your mind?
You would just have to... You wouldn't go outside without smoke, basically.
Oh, that'd be a thing you could do, is just take the cooldown off of smoke.
No, are you insane?
No, just for that part of the game. Just for that part of the game.
I mean, you do realize that would just end in every game being a base race. Once it gets to that point.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I don't know. There was that smoke we did in our game where we smoked and then we were instantly revealed and we were like, what the fuck? And then we saw Mirana like popping out of Moonlight Shadow like 2 feet away.
Actually, like, I think Ogre Magi dusted. That's the only reason we saw them.
Oh, I didn't notice that. I was too busy just being like, What?
Yeah, I figured it out at the same time as he dusted. I had given away my dust to him because I didn't have the slots for both that and smoke. So I hit smoke, and then I'm like, where's dust? Where the fuck is dust?
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. I am learning the mechanics of smoke, but I always assume that there are things about it that I don't know. And I'm like, did we do something that made it reveal? Yeah, that was pretty weird.
That was like some amazing luck timing on our part. Just trying to smoke at that exact moment. It won us a fight.
It did, but it shouldn't have. Like, even in that situation, it shouldn't have. But that Mirana was, like, cocky in the extreme that entire game.
She was ahead of her team. Like, she had backup coming, but she was there before they were.
Well, but that wasn't the only instance of her doing something where she was clearly out of position and didn't seem to give a fuck. I mean, not like clueless, but seemed to, like... I remember one time she was pushing... It was earlier in the game, but she was pushing bottom tier 1, and she was very clearly alone. Like, we had vision behind her and all around her. She was clearly alone, and we went in, and she tried to stand her ground with almost no health. And Ogre Magi just blew her up.
Yeah.
By himself. It was pathetic, but it was just like... I think he got one multicast, and she just melted. And it's just like, I don't know what she was thinking there.
I guess she was just cocky because they were so ahead most of the game.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we've spoken about this game enough. We will be playing more Captain's Mode in the future, won't we?
Probably. I would imagine so.
I look forward to it.
So, changing gears a little bit. Recently we had the redemption vote for the Summit 3, which ended with Invictus Gaming, IG, getting the... No, it was Vici. I keep doing this, don't I? Well, now I'm all confused. It was IG, wasn't it?
I don't remember who won.
I'm pretty sure it was IG. I think Vici... Anyway, a Chinese team. Let's be overgeneral because I keep fucking this up.
Okay, one of the two.
Yeah, one of those two teams won the redemption vote. They beat out Na'Vi and Alliance, who were the other two finalists. And the voting breakdown made it look like that if the Western audience had focused on one team, then it would have won. But I mean, that's an overgeneralization. We can't be sure.
I kind of think that having 3 teams for the final voting round is a bit weird. But that's also an easy criticism for me to make as a Na'Vi fan after Na'Vi just got voted out.
I mean, that's why Na'Vi was in the finals, I'm pretty sure. Like, Na'Vi convinced people pretty late into the voting to vote for them, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I think the way it was 1, 2, 3. It was IG or Vici. I'm pretty sure IG at this point. Alliance, and the Na'Vi was 3rd. So it would have been Alliance and IG in the finals if it weren't for the 3-person. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I see.
So
okay, even knowing that, I still say that's a bit weird.
I do think it's a bit weird, and it is. I don't know. It's kind of a classic political problem, right? When you have a 2-party system and there's a 3rd party, and all it ends up really doing, assuming that they don't, like, usually they do not have a chance to win. I hope that they do. I think it's good to have a 3-party system. But if you have a 2-party system, what a 3rd party ends up usually doing is just drawing votes from one of the other 2 parties to make them lose.
Yeah, I'm sitting here in Sweden, and I'm like, we have so many parties, and I can't even, like, comprehend why you guys don't. So we should probably move on. Yeah.
Politics is not really topic of the day, but, you know, that's all I'm saying is just, like, having 2 Western teams is they sort of leashed votes from each other, I'm pretty sure. And I used to be a big Alliance hater until they had their big team breakdown and rebuilt and lost what I considered to be their trademark arrogance. They're actually... they just seem like an earnest team now, and I like them a lot, but I've always been a Na'Vi fan, and am I a sucker for believing once again that they're actually doing it? They really seem like they're taking it serious this time.
They do seem like that. And I hope they really are. I won't say that I think they are. I say they might be. I'll say they might be.
Yeah.
There is nothing more exciting to me in Dota than, like, the matches that happen when Na'Vi does well.
Yeah. Yeah, they're an exciting team to watch because of, they're just their style, right? Like, what they want to do is they want to fight.
Yeah.
Perhaps more than any other team in Dota.
Definitely. And I am with them there. Like, I want to go for every single fucking kill.
Yeah.
And we have lost games to that.
That's true. But we've also had some great moments, Johnny. We've had some fun times.
We've also won games from that. Let's be honest. Like, sometimes the times where it works out, it's great. Like, the times when you go into and manage to do crazy shit is great.
It has been amazing to me to realize playing Dota. Like, if before I started playing Dota, I would not have expected this. But I am actually a pretty conservative player. I am actually really very consistently like, let's just stay safe. Let's just not go out into the scary woods. And I am glad I have you there to counteract me, because I'm not going to say I'm always wrong, but I am often wrong about that.
You are too conservative and I am too aggressive. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah. I hate seeing my teammates die, and I will get myself killed trying to stop that from happening, and it's a bad habit.
Yeah, that one we both do. We both like, oh, go in, 3-5, we can totally do this. No.
Anyway, Na'Vi. So Artstyle's back, and I wasn't watching back when he was captain, but apparently he was pretty good. And they seem like they're playing differently, you know? Like, they're not... Like, we watched a game versus Team Tinker the other day, and the way they were playing was really... I don't want to say it was un-Na'Vi, but it kind of was. They were just playing really high level, but just super solid Dota. Like, not even taking a lot of risks, just playing very smart, playing very...
But you did have moments, especially in the second game, where it just got a bit greedy and they made it work.
That's true. There was more of that. I was thinking, I guess, more of that first game. I just, like, I don't know, I'm used to seeing Na'Vi do stuff that makes the commentators go, oh, I don't know about this, and then it works.
Yeah.
And I feel like we didn't get as much of that, but...
Not as much, but it was still there, and Like, they just switched lineup again very, very short time ago. I am sure they are still trying to adjust.
Yeah.
And especially judging from, like, the comments they made on Reddit.
Yeah. It was the best thing I'd seen. Like, the thing that made me believe. Like, having Artstyle back is great. Having Funnick back, I mean, he seems to be doing well, so that's great. I wasn't... You know, obviously before I was kind of calling for him to leave, so I feel a little weird about that. But, the thing that made me believe was when, Havost was doing an AMA, and someone asked him about, like, why we should believe that this time is real. And he was talking about how, like, one of the big problems was him, right? He said, I mean, he didn't go into this because, of course he wouldn't, but he mentioned that he was like, we had some captains that were not up to snuff. We had some ones that were, and I didn't really give them a chance because I was kind of full of it.
Yeah, he basically said, like, I didn't trust them.
Yeah, and that's, like, him acknowledging that was a problem is just what I needed to hear.
Yeah, totally. We'll see if they manage to make something out of that. I definitely think they look stronger now than they did going into DAC, for instance.
Totally. And I wanted them to get the redemption vote, but I also think it will be good for them not to. I don't know.
I am fine with them not getting the redemption vote. I Jesus Christ, those fucking redemption campaigns.
Theirs was the only one I respected. All of this, like, the IG wins off of, like, oh, we'll dress up like maids. It's just like, oh, that's gross. You people are gross.
Yeah, no. No, his promise was like, well, I mean, we'll play well.
Well, but I mean, obviously, like, everyone promises that. The thing that was important, the thing that, sold people other than me, the thing that sold me was what Havos said, but the thing that sold other people was them being like, we're gonna do a boot camp, we're gonna have, webcams so you can watch us play, we're gonna stream a game a day, we're gonna do all this stuff that is not gimmicks, it's just us focusing and showing you how we're focusing. I guess we're taking a break. Nope. Okay, well, we'll just edit this part out then. And it's just like, all these other teams are going for these gimmicks, or going for these little, like, oh, we'll do something funny on Twitter. Oh, Eternal Envy will bleach his hair, which, fuck you. Are you fucking... I don't give a shit about Jackie Mao's goddamn hair.
Yeah, that's just going into the whole, like, celebrity bullshit part of the Dota scene.
There was a great one, which was like, I forget who he was campaigning for. Was he campaigning for Alliance?
Yeah.
I don't remember. But, and then finally, Arteezy got on Reddit and got on Twitter and was like, vote for Alliance so Jackie Mao will shut up. Like, yes, thank you.
I saw that. That was pretty great.
Arteezy's kind of a doofus, but I kind of like him.
Also, then he went like, maybe I'm going back on these promises. Maybe I shouldn't, like, do all this stuff.
Of course.
During the finals voting, and it's like, of course you did that. Of course.
Let's not waste any more time on that guy. Yeah, I don't know. I really hope Navi is serious this time, and I think not winning the vote is going to test whether they are. Like, if they just, like, they said we're serious for a week so that they could win the vote, and then whatever from there, like, that, I guess that could be okay. But I think it's probably ultimately better for it to be like, no, we're not going to believe you right away. You're going to have to prove it with results.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting, and I'll be trying to catch more of their games coming up.
Totally. Maybe I'll finally get a chance to buy one of those hats. I want a Navi hat. They're always sold out. So, I don't have any good transitions here, so maybe we could edit this part out where I'm just rambling.
No.
What do we do, Johnny?
No.
Fuck. God damn it.
So, you have challenged me to come up with another Aghanims implementation.
I'm pretty sure we agreed at some point that we were going to do this every time, so you need to stop, like, portraying it as me, like, setting you up for failure.
I mean, I agreed with it because I think your suggestions are interesting. I know that all of mine are gonna suck.
Well, what do you got? Anti-Mage. How are you going to prevent fun in patch 6.84?
Well, I mean, the obvious implementation is simply that once he equips Aghanims, all his lines have magic cut out and replaced with fun.
Okay. So anytime he can sense another player having fun, he gets increased, like, damage resistance and stuff.
Sure.
It's going to be hard to implement, but I like it.
The actual suggestion I have is, like, just make his ultimate, like, much lower cooldown. Make that a thing he uses more.
The thing is, I feel like he doesn't want to use it very much, you know? Like, it's based on when the enemy has a really low mana bar, and that just doesn't happen. I mean, it doesn't happen constantly, you know? You need a person who has a ton of mana and at the moment is almost out. And I feel like that happens about as often as his ability is off cooldown, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I really enjoy that ultimate. I really do. I think it should be used more. But I don't know, like the other one I was thinking about, like just that in addition to the damage, also make his ultimate after the damage is applied remove mana in the targeted area even more.
That's interesting. One thing I thought about, this is not my actual idea, just something I toyed with, is the idea that when he did his ult, it would restore mana to his allies based on how much he had, his ult had done damage for. And the reason I didn't like that is just because of lore reasons. I mean, he's anti-mage. He's not going to be providing people with mana. That makes no sense.
Also, while that would be a good ability, would people do that on anti-mage? Like, would anyone buy that?
So, speaking of things that people wouldn't do on anti-mage...
Okay.
My Aghanim suggestion... changes what the character is, and I'm a big fan of changing a character's role through their Aghanims, and one of the problems with this idea in the current meta is that if you're a 4 or a 5 spot, it's hard to get an Aghanims at all.
Yeah.
And if you're a 1 or a 2 spot, if you get an Aghanims to turn you into a support, then you've got a bunch of, you spend a bunch of time as the 1 or 2, and you're shifting to 4 or 5, and that kind of fucks your team over. So, my idea would not make Anti-Mage a support, but it would make him less of a central carry once he got his Aghanims.
Okay.
Because what it would do is pretty simple. Both of his passives, both Mana Break, which is his, mana damage upon attacking people, and his Magic Resistance, which is mana... I forget. Mana Skin, mana... I don't fucking remember. It's not Mana Shield, because that's fucking Medusa's. Anyway, both of those become auras. Very simple, but changes him pretty significantly, where he is like an off carry that is in the fights and helping out and dealing damage, because he still will build like a carry, but he's not going to be the hardest in the game because he's wasting that slot on Aghanims, and he's just making everyone else tough as shit.
Yeah. My immediate instinct is just, I remember the anti-mage variation in Heroes of New Earth, which was that anytime he used his blink, it would become an aura temporarily when you blinked. So your magic resistance would affect your entire team after you blinked in, which was a really odd design. It made him way too good. But doing this as actually costing him an item slot and some gold for it, that could make sense.
Yeah, and I feel like it would change his role just enough. I think, even if you fixed the situation where, the current gold situation, where getting an Aghanims as a support, etc., doesn't make sense. I still don't think you could make Anti-Mage a 4 or a 5 just because his skill set. It doesn't make any sense. But making him like a 2 or possibly a 3 could work perfectly well, I think. Making him a core in a more literal sense, right?
Yeah.
Like he is the core of the team. He is the backbone. He follows you around and makes everyone stronger.
Yeah, I do like that. I think that would be actually pretty cool. And it would be sort of like a strategy thing where you could draft Anti-Mage, and then if you see a lot of magic damage, you can build into that. So it's like a harder counter to magic damage.
Yeah, because his magic resistance is fucking insane.
It really is.
And if everyone on your team had that, then you would give, Gyrocopter would be not a fucking deal. Well, until he got farmed enough for his fucking split shot.
But he wouldn't become that. You would just stomp him. That's the only concern. Maybe it would be too good, but of course you can always tweak.
Well, and also you do need an Aghanims for it to happen, right? What would probably need to happen for the Anti-Mage is he would need to get not need to, but realistically he would probably get a Battle Fury and then the Aghanims just for farming speed. And by that point, like, the enemy team would have had a chance to diversify and do other things. Like, it wouldn't just crush them before they got started.
It would do some pretty terrible things to any team that uses Storm, though. It really would.
I am okay with that.
I kind of am as well.
I love Storm. I think he's super cool. He's super fun to play. He does cool things mostly to the game. But I am okay with someone countering Storm pretty hard. I think that's probably a good idea.
Perhaps.
Because he's just a beast.
How much is Anti-Mage picked on a pro level now? He's not that popular, is he?
No, he's not very popular at all.
Yeah, then that could make sense.
Yeah.
In a meta where Anti-Mage were to be picked all the time, I think that would be too much. But
oh, sure.
right now, I think that would work.
So, our other weekly feature is our lore of the week. And, I was of a couple of minds about this one, and now we're gonna have Johnny pick. So, Johnny, do you want a character with deep lore, a character with good lore, or a character with terrible lore? I will remind you that eventually we will run out of terrible lore. It will just happen.
I have never been a person known for pacing myself. Terrible lore!
Alright, let's talk about Clinks the Bone Fletcher, shall we?
Okay. I already know this is gonna be great.
So, there's a kingdom, right? There's this kingdom in the land of Dota, whatever the name of that land is, I don't know. But there's this kingdom, and it is being troubled by a fiery demon, right?
Sure.
The king of this kingdom is like a super awesome sorcerer. And even though he's a super awesome sorcerer, I guess he can't be bothered to deal with the problem. So what he does is he says, I am going to cast a spell so that the first person to kill this demon is granted immortality as a reward, right? I guess he doesn't tell anyone, because that's the only way the rest of this story makes any sense at all, is that he casts the spell and then just doesn't say anything.
Okay.
Which makes a lot of sense. So Clinks, who at that time is known by a different name, I don't remember if it says or not. I don't think it does. He's an archer who works for the kingdom, right?
Okay.
And he is going to go take care of this demon. So he heads off, and he's an incredible archer, and he and the demon have an epic fight. And the fight gets down to the wire, and he fires a kill shot on the demon right as the demon burns him alive. And his flesh disintegrates, and he's about to die. Like, he is fractions of a second away from dying. But then that spell triggers because he's killed the demon, so he's made immortal. But he's made immortal in that fraction of a second where he has no fucking skin or anything. He just is a bunch of bones that are burning. So now he's an immortal skeleton who's made of fire.
This is really fucking stupid.
What it is someone was like, okay, we have a flaming skeleton and I'm a terrible writer. How does this make any sense at all? Oh, it's pretty bad.
Necrophos raised him. Okay. End of lore.
Wait, Necrophos is his dad?
No. I meant raised him as in raising a skeleton.
That's a new detail I didn't know. So when he was a young archer, he was raised by Necrophos, and then he went off to fight this demon.
God
right?
damn it. No, but like, seriously. Like, my first thought here is, okay, does any of this explain why he has a stealth ability called Skeleton Walk?
Well, he's a skeleton and he can walk, Johnny. I really don't know how hard this is.
Why does that cause him to first, like, burst into flames even more and then go invisible and run very fast?
I mean, I would be making stuff up because Dota doesn't explain this in the slightest. But if I had to make something up, I would say that he was burning hot enough to generate smoke that veils his body.
But the graphics only, like...
Yeah, the graphics don't support that at
all. Also, Also, this is regular invisibility, not Slark invisibility.
Well, that's the thing, is Slark doesn't actually generate smoke even though the graphics shows smoke. Slark just isn't there because he made a pact with the Dark Ones? I don't know.
Sure.
Dota makes a lot of sense.
No. I mean, yes, but no.
Yeah.
No.
So I feel like we spend more time, probably, whining about how supports don't get gold than basically anything else we do.
Okay.
And obviously this is gonna have to get fixed at some point, but as a person who played some League of Legends starting out, I feel like maybe it's worth talking about what they did to try and fix this problem.
Okay. I'm going to be very useful in this segment.
Well, you'll be able to comment on some stuff. So in Dota, the only item that grants gold in any way is, of course, the Hand of Midas. League has a lot more of these, and they're a lot cheaper, but they're also a lot less potent in ways. So I guess I should just talk about what they do. There are 3 different ones, and the one that interests me the most is the Ancient Coin, because it is the more support-focused one. Basically, what the Ancient Coin does is that it's a mana regeneration item. It grants 25% mana regen, but it also grants you 2 gold and 5 health anytime a creep dies nearby that you did not kill. So the purpose of it, obviously, is that, and I think it has a cooldown on it so that it can't just happen nonstop, but it is a way for you to be provided gold when you're nearby your carry and giving them backup without stealing their last hits.
I like that idea. I do not know if it would slot into Dota well, but I like it as a concept.
And obviously its numbers would need to be tweaked, but yeah, there's that idea. The other 2 items, I guess we'll talk about them since they're here anyway. And also, those items can both be upgraded. Like the Ancient Coin can be upgraded into like a kind of like a ghetto version of the Bracer and stuff. And I don't know. They all have upgrades that I don't know if I love the upgrades, honestly. 'Cause like I feel like gold income items are something you should have early and then you should get rid of eventually, you know? I like that concept. I don't feel like everything should build into something more powerful. There should be some items that you buy for the early game value and then get rid of.
Yeah, I think that's probably a worthwhile design decision. And I do think it's perhaps a bit much that almost everything in Dota right now has an upgrade. Like, you can upgrade fucking bracers.
Yeah. That's true.
And, of course, the thing that bracers upgrades into is pretty niche. Drums.
I feel like the Quelling Blade should be part of the recipe for the Divine Rapier.
Do you actually?
I think it'd be pretty funny.
I think that would be bad lore.
Why is that?
Because
do you know the lore of the Divine Rapier, Johnny?
I think I know the Warcraft 3 version of it.
What's the Warcraft 3 version? I'm curious.
I think it's just, like, literally a combination of 3 great blades.
Well, it's 2 great blades in Dota 2, and the 2 great blades are both in the game already.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Demon Edge is a fragment of the Dire Ancient, and then the Sacred Relic is a fragment of the Radiant Ancient, and you combine the 2 to form a blade that is a combination of Dire and Radiant.
I see. Huh.
But lesser men are driven mad. Or whatever.
Sure.
Anyway. The other items in League of Legends that affect gold gain, there is one that allows you to basically execute minions below a certain health threshold, kind of like Axe, and it's on cooldown, but when you do that, you get gold. That seems kind of like a ghetto version of Hand of Midas to me.
Yeah. That's weird.
And the other one is, to me, even stranger. It's sort of a ganking item that gives you gold every time you damage an enemy hero or structure. Which is really strange.
Yeah.
I guess I appreciate the thought of, like, what if you could provide gold simply by fighting, not even necessarily winning the fight. But that's really strange.
Yeah, I don't think I
setup.
like that one. I really like the support-focused one we talked about, but... Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. I feel like being a little elitist for a minute, because this is Dota 2 and that's what we do.
Of course.
I feel like a lot of other MOBAs are more willing to experiment in some areas that Dota 2 is not. And part of the result is that they have some really stupid ideas. But sometimes, by chance, they come up with stuff that we don't.
Yeah.
So, like, Heroes of Newerth has the... I always mix up the names. Is it the Lightbringer or the Dawn? I don't know. They have basically a version of Sange/Yasha that is intelligence, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like we should probably have something like that. But theirs is stupidly overpowered, so we're not going to do that. It has an AoE dot that sometimes triggers on attacks. Like, it could just proc an AoE dot.
Yeah. The name is much
That's
worse
insane.
than what you thought, by the way.
What is it?
Lightbrand.
Lightbrand, okay.
Yeah.
There's a Dawnbringer in that game somewhere or something. I don't know. There's a lot
Dawnbringer
of...
is...
Oh no, it's their, like, Sange, Yasha, and this all in one, isn't it? Ugh, I don't do that. Like, that is to me the least interesting thing in these games, is when it's like, oh, you can buy these different items, or you could have all of them in a single item. It's like, no, make them choose.
Yeah.
Make them choose something ever. For God's sake.
Yeah, Dawnbringer is just... It's a 6,600 gold fusing of 3 elemental swords, and it's just...
Yeah. If you had, like, any combination of the 2 elemental swords was a single item, a la Sange and Yasha, that would be fine. You don't need the all-in-one. You don't need the Swiss Army knife of Dota items.
They do have all 3 variations of the double. Like, and I think that's cool.
Yeah, totally. But just, like... I don't know. I mean, you notice that in League of Legends as well, there's an item called, I think, Trinity Force.
Yeah. Which
is just 3 different DPS items combined into 1 mega item. And any hero that is DPS focused wants a Trinity Force. You just do. And it's just like, that's not interesting. Having an item that almost everyone wants just makes it less interesting to build your character.
I think the only item I really like more in Heroes of Newerth than its closest equivalent in Dota 2 is the Striders. Which is a pair of boots that cost like a total of 650 gold. It's ridiculously cheap. It's only supposed to be for like supports that don't need arcane boots or similar. That gives you 50 movement speed. But when you're not in combat, it slowly increases the movement speed you get. Up to, I think, 90 at most. And as soon as you go into combat, it goes down to 50 again. But it's sort of like Tranquility boots, but instead of just being on or off, it increases slowly as you don't fight.
Yeah, I do, like you mentioned, Tranquil boots, and I feel like they kind of cover that ground already. I mean, I know it's different, but it doesn't seem different enough.
It's different, and I agree it's too close for them to just port it over to Dota, but I do really like it. They're so cheap. Like, when I would play the equivalent of Witch Doctor in Heroes of Newerth, I would tend to always buy that first, and then get some honor Ian. Just so, because, like, I would go around and just kill things on different lanes. And I always like that a lot.
I can see the sense of that, sure. The other thing that League does differently is the vision game, and I don't know if I like their ideas, but they're worth discussing, I guess.
Okay.
So in League of Legends, you have 7 item slots.
Madness.
And one of them can't be used for anything but special items that are called trinkets, which you can upgrade, but your first one you get for free. You get your first trinket, and I guess you can sell them. But you get a trinket for free at the start of the game, and they are all vision-based.
Okay.
There is one that is basically a slightly crappier ward. There is one that is a dust that only works... It's a dust that works on... Okay, let me rephrase. There's one that is normal dust, and then there's one that is like dust, but only for wards, not for heroes.
Okay.
So basically, you pick at the beginning of the game, are you going to be warding, are you going to be dewarding, or are you going to be detecting? And then you can also buy normal wards in addition to this. And seeing as none of these are as powerful as the proper version of their items, what it ends up doing is that, passively, everyone is part of the vision game, right? Even your mid laner is occasionally being while they're running to go grab a rune, they're like, oh, let me see if I can deward real fast. Or if you're in a lane and you've got someone with you who's warding, you're like, oh, I'll take some stealth detect with me. And I like warding being something that supports primarily take care of, but I don't like it being something that carries basically are not involved in at all. I don't think that's interesting.
I don't think... I think currently in Dota 2, you have, carries participate at least a little bit, but mostly in the early game.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it would be a bit more interesting if the carry had a way to do that, but I also like having to... I don't actually know if I like having to sacrifice a slot for wards or not, because currently when I play a support, I'm I have 2 items, and then the rest is consumables.
Yeah. And obviously it's a very, very tricky situation, right? This is the kind of change that you make that could really upset the balance of the game.
Yeah,
pretty
totally.
massively.
And I obviously trust Ice Frog to test anything extensively before putting it into the game. They obviously still make mistakes, but I don't think a change like that would be made without making sure that they think it's the right direction.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was wrong.
Okay.
One of the items is not based on dust. There is no version of dust.
Okay.
There is one that is a ward, there is one that is dewarding, and basically you scan an area to deward. And then there's one that is like Farsight, you cast it on a distant area within a longer range, not global, but a longer range, and it just scouts that area real quick.
I really like Farsight type stuff.
Yeah. And those items can all be upgraded at level 9 for a little bit of money, and they get a little better, but I don't know if you even need that.
I would like to see a Farsight type item into Dota, but make it expensive.
Yeah, there's one thing, the thing that I think most makes these interesting is the fact that they're unlimited use, right? They're on a different slot and they're unlimited use. They just have a cooldown. So, until you get to the higher levels of the game, supports in League of Legends are not paying for wards. They just have them. And you still have to buy sentries, basically. But normal wards, you don't really buy.
Okay.
And I don't know how to feel about that. Because, on the one hand, it is a major cost in the game, and I feel like it can bog things down sometimes. But also, that kind of takes the teeth out of dewarding to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Right?
I definitely like having the decision, when do you spend the money for wards? When is it fine to wait a bit?
Yeah. If we were to implement this in Dota, what I would want is... Well, I don't know if we should implement it, but let's just go with the theoretical. These should be shittier versions of everything, right? It should not give as much vision as a proper ward, for instance. It should be a noticeable downgrade.
Should it have a lower duration?
A lower duration with a smaller cone of vision.
Yeah.
Double whammy. Like, this is just like, I can do this when I need it, when I can't afford something better, or to supplement my prop rewards. But prop rewards are still the order of the day. Now, I would kind of be fine with sentries being less of a staple, right? Like, the trinket version of that, like the little, like, scan an area real quick.
Yeah.
I would be fine if people thought that that was fine, like, if they could get by with just that sometimes. Because I do think, I mean, like you said, like, if you're up against a stealth hero, there will be times when your inventory is, like, you know, some kind of boots, some support item, and then TP scrolls, dust, sentries, observers. Like, and that's a fucking bummer.
And I have had games where it's like, okay, I am now buying 8 sentries, and that's not enough.
Yeah.
Just because, like, they have so much stealth. And
yeah.
we don't have anyone that can really carry a gem currently.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously the trinket doesn't fix that problem, right? Like, you can't... I was wrong that they have an item that is the equivalent of dust, and that's good, because I feel like that's too good.
Yeah, I totally agree. That would be too good.
Yeah, and unlimited use dust is just gross, no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's some cool stuff you could do with that idea, but it all comes into whether or not that takes up a slot or not, right?
Yeah.
Like, are you willing to give this its own slot? And if so, are you willing to make it about things other than vision? Because the problem is, like, it does seem a little weird in Dota to have a slot that is dedicated to vision.
It seems inelegant.
But if you make it about anything else, then there are people who are just going to ignore the vision part. And that probably will become the optimal way for people to play. Like, the idea of this is to get carries and stuff participating in the vision game.
But they wouldn't.
Right, exactly. As soon as you open the door for them to do anything else, they will completely ignore the vision part.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of against the spirit of Dota to, like, force that to be a thing.
It might be, but I might be okay with that. I don't... Like... There was a problem back when I was playing World of Warcraft, where people who were playing DPS classes gave a shit about nothing but DPS. They didn't care about how much health they had, how much armor they had, how much mana they had. All they cared about was how much damage they could put out as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And that was the best way to play, and that sucked.
Yeah. I remember having a conversation back in Wrath of the Lich King where I was like, I don't even care about having a bit more DPS. I want a bit more mana regen. I would swap out these bracers for something with spirit on it. Because currently I am barely running out of mana. And everyone around me was like, you're an idiot. It's like...
Yeah.
And I know that that's, like... Technically it would lower my damage a tiny bit. But I don't like being the one who's like, okay, now I'm out of mana, now I can't do anything, and if something goes wrong, there's nothing I can do about it.
Well, and I don't like it in games where someone just has one incredibly specific role and never does anything else. That's not interesting.
That's too much, and World of Warcraft certainly went way too far in that direction.
And carries, I mean, it's just the nature of the game that carries want to do that.
Yeah, but, yeah. Still, carries tend to get at least a bit of control stuff. It's not just damage.
Sure. But, like, I mean, mids, right? People playing mid. I feel like mid should be a sort of support carry hybrid, generally speaking.
That's how I tend to play it, but I don't play a lot of mid heroes.
I mean, I played Wind Ranger the other day, and I sure as shit didn't play like that.
Yeah, totally. Like, usually if I'm mid, that's because I picked Zeus. And then I will go, like... Then I will go Veil of Discord, which is both helps my damage and helps other people's damage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I was going to say it's something that they would need to test a lot, but for all we know, they are. For all we know, they are working on this, like... The Vision game in Dota has not seen many changes in quite a while.
And I imagine... They've seen small changes, like, we reduced the price of wards a bit. But
sure. But no, like, there hasn't been a new type of ward. or anything really big, anything like that. And I'm sure that they experiment with that shit constantly.
Yeah, totally.
And I assume eventually there will be something that they are happy enough to put in the game. And I'll be really interested to see if that happens.
I am very interested to see the next patch in general.
Well, it's not going to be in the next patch, I bet you.
Well, sure. Probably not. But I bet the next patch is going to be pretty large. It's probably not going to be one of those world-changing patches, but I bet we will see some changes to Gold game.
Yeah, and I'll be pretty excited for those.
Like, especially because just them holding it back and waiting for, like, a tournament that hasn't even started yet to conclude.
Yeah.
That tells me that there's gonna be at least one big thing there.
Yeah, that was a pretty exciting thing, is to be like, I mean, obviously they're still willing to patch the game. Like,
yeah.
They added a new cosmetic set the other day, which was pretty cool. But when they're like, no, we can't ship this before a major tournament, that's like, oh boy, that's exciting to hear.
That's kind of exciting to hear. Do you know how Warcraft 3 Dota handled that sort of shit?
Badly, because Warcraft 3 Dota did everything badly?
There was just legitimately like a stable version of the map that tournaments were played on, which meant that new characters would be added to the game, and the stable version would not have them. They would just like stick on a version for half a year.
Wait, new characters being added that aren't played professionally? I wonder what that would be like.
No, but like, it wasn't even available to play outside of Captain's Mode. The stable version still supported all the other stuff. And there were people outside of the professional team who did play unstable. And that was a thing. It wasn't like the main thing you would play. Most people would play the latest version, but... That was another thing, because like this is all like distributed maps, and it's like every time there's a new version, that's technically a new map you have to download.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have, around patch day, we would have people hosting like games and being with the old versions because they didn't know there was a new version out.
Mm-hmm.
That would happen constantly.
Huh.
The old system was weird. And the new system is weird as well, and I kind of almost want them to have some sort of a system to play on an old version on competitive. But
I'm glad they don't.
Are you?
Yes, it would do some terrible things to the pro scene.
You think so?
I am positive. It would... If people thought, like, I mean, okay, right now, a lot of pros bitch nonstop about Comeback Gold.
Yeah.
A bunch of tournaments, not all of them. Certainly not all of them, but there would be tournaments that were just like, no, we're going back to 6.81. We're playing on 6.81.
Oh, I don't suggest that they would get to choose. I suggest that IceFrog would pick a version to be, this is the stable version right now.
But you said they could play old patches, and if they had the option to choose that, they would just roll back to whatever, like, they romanticized in their heads.
Yeah, I am suggesting that you should not be able to freely roll back. I am suggesting that the game should support the live version and one stable version, which is what Valve considers the competitive.
But it's a little different, but I feel like we kind of already do that between Captain's Mode and regular mode. I know it's not the same, but I feel like it's basically the same idea.
It's the same idea, but it's still kind of not the same. Like, the old scene, like, you would go on that old version for a long-ass time, and probably for a too long time. But, yeah, I don't know. I kind of miss the stability of the pro scene, just knowing that, like, any last-minute patches wouldn't fuck them over.
I see. Yeah, I can see the sense in that.
Anyway, I think we've exhausted this topic.
I think we've exhausted this podcast, more or less. Thank you for joining us for Bottle Crow episode 3. You can find us on Twitter at Bottle Crow. I am at 6264, and Johnny is at Johnny Warp Zone.
Indeed.
We are both. I am from scanlinemedia.com, and Johnny is from Score Attack. What is your website these days?
Score-attack.com.
There we go. I always mess it up and get some weird nonsense. And I write about video games, and he records video games and talks about them.
I also write about video games like once a year.
Sure. It doesn't count. And we are now on iTunes. We are not, obviously, a very big operation, and so any positive reviews, word of mouth, tell your friends. We would really appreciate it. We have an email address, which is bottlecrowpodcast@gmail.com. You can send in questions and comments. And as you may notice, we didn't get any this week, so we got good odds of getting on if you send us something.
Send us the dumbest shit you have, and we'll read it out.
Yeah, you got a chance to make us miserable for a good 15 minutes or so with the right question. So, yeah, and so just if you liked it, tell your Dota playing friends about it. We don't have a lot of promotion going on because we're not making any money off of this, and we never will. That's not the point. The point is just this is fun for us to do, and we want to share it with people, and we'd love for you to share it with people too.
Indeed.
And thank you for joining us.
Thank you all.